Well, hey, welcome back to Take a Mulligan podcast. It is really good to be back with you all. We are the podcast where we talk about taking second chances because that's what a mulligan is, taking another try at it. So it's great to be back here, Brian, and we're going to talk about an interesting topic today.
Yeah, it is. It's good to be back. It's been a little while since we've been together in the studio here, so it's cool to be back on here and just discuss some things, hang out, chat, talk, catch up a little bit.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we try to
And
do
hopefully,
here.
hopefully people want to listen in, right? That's what we're hoping. So we started chatting a few weeks ago about the topic of AI and say, hey, that'd be a cool podcast to talk about. I'll be straight. Like, I don't know, I'm oblivious to AI. Here's what I do know, and maybe, I don't know, this is a good place to start or not. So been down in the DC area. Of our kids live down that way, right? So, well, kid-in-law. And it's in what do they call it? The Dulles corridor. So it's the highway that goes out to Dulles Airport, basically that corridor in that area. And from what I understand, it is the biggest area in the entire country of where they are building these data centers. And I watched as many of them got built right in front of me as you would drive by the highway. And I look at these things and everybody's like, "Well, that's because of AI coming out." I'm like, "Okay, I don't buy it. I'm sorry, I just don't buy it. Like, I don't buy why we need this huge building that everybody's doing because we're all trying to check our spelling in AI or trying to have somebody rewrite something for us. Like, okay, I mean, we all know we got more computer capability in our hands than probably most of us are using with AI. Okay. I mean, it's just we're not using. So why? So I'm going to say this right out again. This thing scares me. Okay. Because there are so many buildings, and these buildings are like, years ago where they said, well, the computer used to take that much
Yeah,
buildings back in the old, what do they call them, with the computer cards and all this stuff. Used to take these buildings, and now what used to take 16 square blocks of buildings are now on your fingertips on your phone, right? And I'm watching it all being rebuilt again. I'm like, there's a lot of stuff going on. Let's just say there's a lot of stuff going on.
well, it's funny when you talk about the building because do you remember that show, Person of Interest? Where they, like, were
Yeah.
able to
Oh, yeah.
determine whether a crime was gonna happen based on all the video cameras and everything, and by the end of that whole series, it was like the computer was, like, in this huge building, and the computer was just enormous, so it kinda reminds me of that when you're talking about that.
Yeah. And when you think of it, like, okay, so just one of these data centers look like that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just saying, okay, there's dozens and dozens of them. They're just all over the place. And never mind the amount of power that these things generate. It's just wild. And I don't know. It scares me. That's all I can say. So
Well
I don't know, where do you want to
well,
start
so
with
I guess
this?
I'll tell you a little bit of my background on kinda getting interested in it is obviously, it's all over the place. Everybody's talking about it. There's, and I've been kind of looking into it more probably within the last 6 months or so. Otherwise, I didn't really have much interest in it. Uh, so I've been listening to a bunch of different stuff and different people talking on it, and it's been interesting to see, like, perspectives. And then, so we have our small group for our Bible study at our church, and, I actually was leading that, so I said, "Let's talk about, like, AI and how does it affect our spiritual lives and faith? And should we
Okay.
talk about it? Should we worry about it as a church?" And kind of that was the direction it went in, which was kind of interesting, from that perspective too. But I mean, there's just so much out there to be able to learn about it, hear about it. I mean, there's the gamut of podcasts that are out there that talk about this from the financial world to, Christianity to political to business. It's all just all over the place.
Yeah.
So I guess I ask you this question, Ken. Have you used any forms of AI yourself at
Oh,
all?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll use it. I find it a very helpful tool to, hey, I'm looking on this topic. What do you got? Right. For example, I'm coming up with a study on the book of Ephesians and for a small group. And I said, okay, give me the core. What's the book of Ephesians about? Break it down into this type of category. And so I broke it all down. I was like, oh, okay. I don't know if I agree with it or not,
Yeah.
but it gives you a basis. And I think to me, that's what I understand it's designed for. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to take it as fact because my understanding of AI, and maybe we'll get into this more later, is it's 15% inaccurate at best. It's probably a lot higher. So even when they quote sources and all that stuff, like on whatever AI tool you're using, if you click on those sources, because it makes it look smart,
Mhm.
like it knows what it needs to look smart. It's like, when you did that a school paper,
Yeah.
quote your resources. But if you click on the resources, they might not even be there,
Yeah,
or what
I
they
mean,
quoted is not even there.
I think it
So
definitely has its flaws. I haven't heard the
yeah,
percentage of what it actually does not know, but I know that in personal use, I've been like, "Really? That sounds like you can't figure this out for me." So,
yeah,
yeah, so I guess just to go backwards a little bit,
yeah. God,
when do you think we've started first seeing aspects of AI? Like, what
I
decade
would
do you
say,
think we were in at that point?
oh my goodness, I would probably go back to the '80s or 90s even to say that we were probably tampering with something.
Some forms of it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, even, Alexa and all that kind of stuff, that's in some ways some form of, "Hey, we know what you need." I don't know when Alexa came out and all that stuff.
Well, that was definitely a lot later, but,
That
yeah,
was
that was a
later,
good
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No, I know that was in the '80s or '90s, but yeah, I'm assuming there was some smart computer. I mean, hey, we watched, War Games. War Games was AI, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's yeah, I mean, that's a good,
So
that's a good take on it, and actually, when I was doing some research on it, it was in the '80s, the DARPA project, US military projects were already starting to play around with some of that. And then, it really came in more mainstream, I guess, in the '90s, and when you think back to the '90s, like, what did we have? We started having, AI was now it could do spell checks for us. I mean, these are all forms of AI. It was very,
yeah,
archaic,
basic,
but
but
having certain data that it could find, even searches that became, popular, and then not until, like, 2007 when the smartphones came out, you were getting some type of AI in there because that was even a small version of it when you had, "Oh, let me put in the name of my contact," and it would start to search for anybody with those first
yeah.
letters. So all of
Well,
that is a
and then
form of AI.
it would also bring up to who's ever you called the most.
Yeah.
So it had that ability to analyze that.
Yeah, so these were all little forms of it, not like what we're seeing
Yeah,
now, but
yeah,
these were
yeah.
evidence of it being out there, and then it was 2014 when, Siri and Alexa and all those came out, and then we
So that
go
was
into
wild. Okay,
yeah,
that's only
it
10
wasn't
years
that
ago then,
long ago,
really.
yeah, and then we run into 2020 is the first time Chat GPT, came out first, and then, the explosion of it between
And
23 and 25.
then others like Perplexity and others have popped
Yes,
up.
I mean, there's a ton of them out there now. I know, the main ones are ChatGPT, Copilot is the Microsoft one, I think. There's a lot of them out there, but, I think from what I've seen, ChatGPT is still, like, almost the top, and now you got Grok, which is that's the X one from Elon. That's
Oh,
his
okay.
version, which I would imagine, based on his input and his brilliance, that I would think his is gonna surpass anything else, but
Yeah, probably. Google's getting into the game.
they
Even
have
Google
their own
has a
as
little,
well,
yeah,
and, it's hard to tell who's gonna really take off and what's gonna be the
yeah,
standard. So
yeah.
from what I've found, I've actually used, I use chat most of the time, and
Okay.
I actually have used it quite a bit in the last probably 6 months. So I've actually worked on stuff for business. Like, I've had it refine a mission statement, vision statement. I've had it do certain paperwork, and it's all about, those that don't know anything about it, don't use it much, this might sound like, we're simplifying things. Those who know a ton about it, we're gonna sound like kind of real remedial people here, but
Yeah,
just from a simple aspect of things, it's all about the prompts you give it. Like, that's really what drives it. And that's the interesting part to kind of learn and understand and try to grow with. Like, when you Google something, it's just like, tell me about, what's the best, vacuum cleaner to buy, and it'll list
yeah,
it. But now you can take it to a step, another level with ChatGPT, and it would be more like, hey, I've had a vacuum cleaner for 6 years and it broke, and I have this square footage in my house, and I have carpet and I have hardwood floor. What would you recommend for me? What were the best products? And the more you give it,
yeah,
the more it learns, and the
yeah,
more it can spit out. And then before you know it, it's like, "Oh, okay, well, here's the best vacuums under $500. And there's one at Lowe's. Here's these at Home Depot. And right now it's in stock. Here's the Lowe's and Home Depot near you. And here's the price for it. Do you want me to, you
yeah,
know, put that in your GPS?" I mean, that's how detailed it can get. So it's been very interesting to me to learn more about it and understand it and see what it does. But I've also worked on some projects that I was like, wow, this guy is not getting it, or whoever this is it's hard not to put like a personality to it. But it was like I was going back and forth, back and forth. I'm like, "No, you're not getting it. You're not getting it. I want you to do this, do this, do this." And then it wouldn't do it. It's like, "No, now you messed everything up." So I've had those kind of chats as well that have been kind of frustrating.
Well, it's so different than talking to Alexa or, what's her face? Siri. You try it, "Siri, send a text," and then she repeats it back, and you're like, "No, that's not what I meant at all.
Yeah.
Okay, listen very carefully here." And then you say it again, and it's like so honestly,
Which
if
phone
that's
for Outback?
see, there you
Mobile or
go.
work?
There's Siri. If, if that's where we're at with our phones, I'm not really nervous about AI at all because I feel like they can't do anything. But I'll go back to this whole thing about these big buildings. So if the average person is doing just what you're doing,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not some computer geek by any means at all, but does it really take that big of a building? If even a million of us are just doing that simple little thing, like, I still don't get it. Like, there's something much,
Well,
much, much bigger going on here than
yeah.
we're all seeing or we're even all led to believe, is where I'm going with
Well, I
that.
think again, our remedial understanding of computers, we'd have to have somebody in that would give us better perspective on what is with all these buildings. Like, is
Yeah.
that the huge versions of AI that we're not even tapping into? The average American is not going to tap into, and that's what that's for. I don't really know. I mean, I know there's a lot of versions of it too, because I actually got even more curious. And of course, on social media, they have all these different advertisements for all these different things. And I got intrigued by one of like how to learn AI in like 30 days kind of thing. So
Okay.
I actually did it. It was like
That's
20
cool.
bucks. And it's actually a pretty cool app because it's like a little educational piece and it takes you through like step one and they just keep getting more and more. So they ask you, what AI you've used or what you use most. So I put in their chat and some of the other ones I've used. And then they kind of teach you the basics of those. But then they keep taking it a step bigger and bigger. And then they go into like, image generation. And here's an AI platform that does image generation and you just tell it what you want. So it gives you like, it's kind of cool. I mean, I would recommend it for somebody that's really interested in learning more about AI because I've definitely learned more. But it's like, you still got to practice a ton with how to get what you want out of it. So this one will tell you like, imagine, a beautiful sunset with a partly cloudy sky over a lake, and then all of a sudden you'll see an image generated
Yeah,
that looks just
drawing.
like that. And then you give it other little prompts that you have to understand how to give it to it. And then all of a sudden now it looks like a, old painting that somebody just did. So like that stuff's wild. And then it goes into even more like, okay, what do you do with this now? Well, it's content creation. So now you can create content for social media and for marketing, and you can come up with branding and logos and all this other stuff like instantly. And that's, I think, where there is definitely an advantage. I mean, me as a small business owner, I mean, I have so many different roles, and it's like if I can use this efficiently and know how to use it efficiently, I don't need somebody to do marketing for me because I can basically spend 15 minutes trying to generate some kind of AI thing and create an image or create a flyer or whatever I want to do for marketing. Same thing with like, all kind of operations manuals. Like you can have it create that based on what it knows. And it is scary how it does get to know you more and more. Like the more information
Yeah,
you
I
give
bet.
it understands what you do for a living. And, if you mention your family or, area that you live in geographically, all these different things, it holds that information, which that is
Yeah.
a little scary, but I don't know that we
Now
already
I
didn't have that with Google and GPSs and everything else.
yeah, now I do know some of the warnings that are going out there is if you're using AI, don't feed it personal
Mhm.
information if at all possible. Like, they don't need to know your whole name. They don't need to know where you live. They don't need to know your kids' names. They don't need to know because at least they know about you. Just do it for what, like you're doing it. Here's what I'm trying to do. They don't need to know personal stuff about me.
But then
So,
again, you think they don't know that already?
yeah, but they may not tie it all together because again, they're not, it's still a computer,
Well, I
and again,
think
it's like, based on the information you feed it.
the other thing I've heard business guys talk about it too, business owners and stuff talk about it, and a lot of people are saying that, if you don't understand it, that's where you're gonna lose a job. So if you don't know how to utilize it or use it, that's where you're gonna
Yeah.
get left behind. And I think that was like it was a good indicator to say like, because so many people are so scared AI is gonna take all your jobs. And yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff that can be taken from AI, but from what I've heard from a lot of different business professionals is learn how to use it and you'll be a valuable employee still because you can utilize it
Mhm.
and use it. One guy he runs a company and he basically said that they kind of knocked down some of their HR department because, and I don't know if they changed roles. I don't know if they got rid of everybody because of it, but they changed roles around because now some of their employees are understanding how to use AI to do different aspects of human resource type of stuff that they weren't doing
Yeah.
before. So when you learn that, now they have a new tool that they're using and they're a valuable employee because they know how to use that well for that purpose.
Yeah. So how do you feel? Let's talk about that for a little bit. So how do you feel about this whole that is a fear. People are saying it's gonna take over all our jobs. So none of us have jobs. So how do you I don't know, what's some of your thoughts on that about losing jobs and stuff like that? I mean, you hit on a really good one. Like I think it's a tool.
Yeah.
The computers were tools.
Yep.
When the computer came out, it revolutionized our
The
world.
internet. Right.
Yeah, the internet revolutionized our world and it changed jobs. I mean,
Yeah.
things changed pretty rapidly because now we have internet, now we have computers and you have personal computers. We carry around these computers that can do all kinds of things. So obviously this is another tool. So I don't know, what are some of your what are some of the positive things about jobs that you would
Well,
think?
that like the stuff I mentioned, like my own personal examples, like, for me to be able to create certain things, whether it's forms, whether it's, becoming more efficient with, administrative type of work, administrative type of forms that I want to do, if there's certain programs that I want to establish, I've been using AI to help me do that, and it's been much quicker than me sitting around saying, "Oh, let me design this for a program I wanna get started at my
Yeah.
business," or I gotta sit and work on my operations manual and update that. Like, now that I can use AI to help me with that, I can be much more efficient, so for me, I find that as a huge positive.
Okay. So for small business owners and stuff out there, this could be a huge tool to help them get to the next level without having to hire a lot of
Yeah,
employees
and
and
I
stuff
think
like that,
that's
even
where yeah,
part-time.
and I think that's where a lot of people are
Yeah.
finding the benefit is that, like, if you can learn how to use it well, you can avoid like, for me, I can't really hire somebody to do some of these tasks right now just financially, so
Yeah.
if I can help myself be more efficient to do or learn some of those tasks, or even if I had to hire somebody that can do, like, 4 different aspects of what I need by using AI to make themselves more efficient, then that's a
Yeah.
benefit too. So I think that's where some of the benefits are definitely at. I know there's a lot of the fear of like, oh, we're gonna lose jobs, but like you said, I mean, I think it's just gonna be a different job creation. Like somebody who's in a company, been there for a long time, and all of a sudden they start learning AI. Now all of a sudden they have a new skill set in that same company and can maybe be even a better employee because
Yeah.
maybe they were getting stagnant with what they were doing and now they have a new thing to learn. And I think, learning's always growth. I think it's always a great thing. So if certain employees can now learn a different job task by using AI to help them do that, I think that would be a positive.
Yeah.
In my profession, I always thought, well, there's no, people you can't use AI to replace a physical therapist. I mean, we physically are working on people. But there's stuff out
They
there
can.
already
Yeah,
where it's
there is. Yeah.
becoming like a personal trainer, a virtual personal
Yeah.
trainer,
Yeah.
virtual physical therapist where
Yeah.
people can log into a system and they have exercises there and they check in and everything's integrated where the AI is checking in with the patient can check in. That part of it actually I didn't think was gonna be a possibility. Now that to me is not physical therapy. The hands-on
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
is so important,
Yeah.
for people's
Well,
care, but
and with anything.
yeah,
Yeah. It could be a tool that you
yeah,
could use, but to eliminate like your role altogether eliminates that personal touch because
right,
that patient, even working through his exercise, isn't gonna know where they're off a little bit.
yeah,
And the AI tool is not gonna have that, again, hands-on
yeah.
personal touch to see what their progress is and all that kinda
Yeah,
stuff.
and I think some of the enhancements that they have from, body analysis and all this stuff is amazing, but again, I would use that more as a tool to then help my patients or to give them as something they can use in addition to what we're
Yeah,
doing. So I
yeah,
don't see it as a thing right now that it would, take away my profession unless, all of a sudden they're getting robot hands that are stretching everybody and working on everybody. But
well,
what's
and this
interesting is
is
I had a conversation that well, when I started getting into this in the summer, and one of the conversations I had was more in your profession of like, okay, so say a pastor wanted to just say, "Hey, AI, I'm doing a sermon on Ephesians, and can you write me a sermon?" And
yeah,
so
yeah.
now you're at the point of like, well, wait a minute, how do we know that that's not happening right now? And
Well, it
Where
probably
does that
is.
go, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah,
again, coming back to
yeah,
it's a tool to use, and you have to just refine it the way you want and not use it to do everything for you. Edit what you find, let it help you find information more efficiently, but still you have to do the work on it.
yeah. Well, like I said, with the coming up even a small Bible study, it's like I think it's a great tool. Like, okay, I can look at it, but I'm going to go back and look at the text
Yeah.
to make sure. Okay, no, you're like way out to lunch here, or I never saw that
Uh,
connection before. And so I think it's a tool to help you. It's like having an extra set of eyes on it.
yeah.
But yeah, anybody could go the lazy route. Hey, I got this whole thing. I don't have to do any work. Or no, I'm going to use this as a tool to help me to be better at what I do. Right.
Yeah. And it's, again, you're using it as a tool, but you have to be careful with how you use it. I mean, years ago, everybody could have Googled everything and not done any of their own research and got away with it that way too. And that wasn't really them working. And now it's just even harder because I think the information is just like so dynamic. And I think the scary part, more so to me, not like the losing jobs or it's going to take over the world, that kind of stuff. But I think it's more of like we already live in a world where it's hard to trust things, the information, the news. So now all of a sudden you're seeing something like, wait a minute, is that a real image or is it AI generated now? And I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
fakes have been going on for years, but now the intensity of how accurate some of this stuff can be is
Yeah. Yes. Why don't
crazy.
we shift there for a little while? Because that is where we get into the huge fears. I
Yeah,
mean, job loss is one thing, and I do know, go back to the job. I think some people have said this is going to be like of the industrial revolution. But we moved from factories where you had all the people who did
yeah,
shift work to more of what we're used to, I guess, in our most of us are used to now. That was a huge shift. A lot of people lost jobs because now you didn't have the factories doing all the stuff and all that kind of stuff. And some people are looking at this as that same kind of shift. It's going to be a shift, and certain kind of work is not going to be there anymore. But it happens. That's part of our
yeah,
culture. It's just part of a thing. But that's getting into this fake stuff. That's spooky because, like, literally, even in this conversation, here we are having a conversation. Somebody could take an AI tool and now actually change our lips to say other words than you and I are actually saying, and it would say it in our voice,
yeah.
and now launch this podcast that's not even our podcast, and yet it's saying all kinds of things, and the more sophisticated we get, people may not even know the difference, right?
Yeah.
That's spooky.
Yeah, I mean, that to me is probably the scarier part of where is this gonna take us is not so much
Okay.
the technology of what it can do and, all the cool things that it can do, is more how much more are we gonna be deceived by what's out there?
Yeah.
And,
So what
it could be something as simple as like, oh, they resurrected, a Hollywood actor that's been dead. I mean, I know they talked about doing that with, Bruce Willis, I think. They talked about still using him in movies, even though he can't act anymore. And that's pretty freaky. Like, you're going to AI generate him to put him in a movie, and it's not even
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
So some of that stuff's scary. I mean, what there's
But
been a
we're seeing that.
yeah,
We saw it with, like, Star Wars and
yeah, yeah,
Star Trek and stuff like that. They've already brought back the old like, this is what they were like when they were young, and it's like,
right,
but that's not them because they're not that
yeah.
young anymore, so now we're seeing and that's
Well,
scary.
there's that part, and
Yeah,
then there's been a couple recent. I mean, probably within maybe the last 6 months, but there's been a couple of incidents where I don't know how old they were, if they were teenagers, young 20s, but there was 2 that I'm aware of that were using chat or one of the AIs basically as a counselor and was asking, in depression saying, I don't know what to
yeah,
do. Should I kill myself? And AI apparently said, go ahead.
yeah,
And I mean, that is really scary. And it's like, where do you
yeah,
put the borders on that? How do
yeah,
you,
and like any other tool, okay, it's in the hands of the person
yeah,
who's yielding the tool, but it's also in the hands of the creator of the tool.
right.
So, just like Google, I can search on Google for something. Well, Google, the company Google, sets up the parameters of what I'm
Yeah.
looking for. So, if I'm looking for something on depression, they set the parameters. If they don't want spiritual things to help you in depression, they can put blocks and
Yeah.
keywords to block all that stuff, right? Now, I'm not saying they do that. I'm just saying they can. And so when you click on a search for something, their algorithms are producing what you're gonna see first,
Mm.
not necessarily what's the best or what's the most popular.
Yeah.
And AI is just that on steroids, right? So, yeah, and I've read stories like that too, where people are looking for counselors or trusted friends. They're becoming like they're looking at this AI tool, they're talking to this person, like,
Yeah.
it's very real,
Well, it's even
and man,
from the dating app aspect of it because they're creating an image of a
yeah,
person and you're like,
yeah,
talking on a screen to this person who looks completely real, having kind
yeah,
of a real conversation because the technology is so advanced, and that person is starting to engage with that image,
yeah,
thinking that's a real
yeah,
person, and it's like, wow, we're living in a world where we've already lost connection with the phones and the
yeah,
apps and social media that we're so lost in that we don't know how to have conversations or look people in the eye when we talk anymore. So we're gonna go from that to
yeah,
now having an actual conversation, an actual relationship with somebody who's not
with
even
a
real because
real,
they look real
yeah,
and they say the right things to make me
yeah.
feel special and right, and
Yeah.
I mean,
And
that's
it's
scary.
learning. That's what's even
Yeah, yeah,
scarier. Like, it's not learning because it loves you. It's
yeah,
learning because it knows how to respond to you, that if they say something a little off, you're gonna respond this way. So now it's learned to let me adapt how I say that. Let me how I do it. And like just like we would
yeah,
hopefully in conversations. But they're doing it more in a manipulative way because they're trying to continue this relationship from an AI perspective, right?
yeah.
So yeah, it's
And
spooky.
I
It
think
is
going
very
back to what you
spooky.
were saying too about the, how it's influenced by the creators of these
Yeah.
is the scary part there too, is the bias. We live in a very toxic environment when it comes to political and religious aspects anymore. And
Yeah.
there's so much bias that if there is a bias against a certain group of people or something and it's creating the AI, then the AI is going to sway in that direction. So then
Absolutely.
finding the truth in that is even harder now. I mean,
Yeah.
because so if you ask AI a question and it's been biased to not give you the answer you want because it doesn't like the question you asked because it has to do with a certain group or a certain person or a certain political persuasion, what information are you going to find? And then if you find that and you're trusting AI all of a sudden, like we do with Google all the time, then what? Now it's like, oh wow, I didn't know that. And maybe it's false information because it was fed on a certain bias.
And there's a different scarier piece to this that most people don't even realize is happening to them, but everything we're going on, like Google or whatever else like that, any kind of search engine, especially AI, because it's that much smarter. Um, what how do you say this? So if I and we all know this, if I talk about cowboy boots, next thing I know it's gonna pop up on my feed, right? So that feed knows I'm interested in cowboy boots. So all of a sudden it's gonna say, okay, well, let's throw out a cowboy hat. Let's throw out some cowboy shirts. Let's throw out this kinds of, and so it knows me and it's feeding me information that I like, and it creates my own little world where I'm not thinking about disco outfits. I mean, if that thought is not
Yeah.
even entering my mind. Okay. Now, good or bad, we don't need to go there. But what I'm saying is that happens in our thought patterns where it's if I have a bias to, say, a certain political stance or a religious view or maybe a worldview, it's continually feeding that little aspect. It's not giving me a broader perspective. So it narrows my perspective of the world because even though I think I'm seeing everything, my view is actually narrowing more and more. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think you nailed it with again, let's take chat out of it and then the last 5 years out of it with the AI stuff and just look at this simple fact of the algorithms. I mean, that's nothing more than
Yeah.
AI, right?
Yep.
And how long
Yep.
have the algorithms been going on since social media was created? So, like you said,
Yeah.
how many people are scrolling through their social media feeds and it finds one thing, they click on it out of interest. Now all of a sudden they're getting influenced more and more. And again, it could be, a merchandise, it could be a store, it could be food, it could be a topic, it could be a political view, a spiritual view, a world view. And all of a sudden now you're getting kind of almost brainwashed into the information because it's information overload. And then
Yeah.
you keep
Yeah.
watching and you get even more curious, and like you said, I mean, it can be good in certain ways that way, but it also could be really toxic in certain ways if it's feeding a
Yeah.
very toxic type of,
Yep.
information.
Yeah. Yeah, so you take, like, that example where, somebody's having a conversation with AI and it told them to commit suicide. somebody's dealing with depression, stuff like that, everything now is starting to
Yeah.
feed that way, and it's
Yeah.
feeding that mentality. Or violence. They have a violent mentality or they have a bias against a certain group of people. And now everything they're seeing is now creating more and more and more of that bias. And so, yeah, that's a real fear.
Yeah.
So most of us have to be aware that just like, I mean, well, most of us should know it by now that marketing is always happening to us all the time. So when you go into a food store, why do they put things on the end aisle? Because they know you're going to grab them. And they're not usually the ones on sale. They're the ones that are more expensive, but they know you're going to see it. You're going to grab it on the way out because, man, those chips look really good, and now you're hungry and you just. They know that, okay. I mean, they know what color bottle you'll reach for versus another cup of a bottle, or how they're advertising. Right? So they've been doing that to us for years, and so we lean into it, right? Naturally, not even realize we're being manipulated to make purchases, right? Now, this is manipulating us on how we live life, our worldview. Our philosophical, our religious, our political views are being manipulated in us, and we don't even realize it's happening.
Yeah.
So I think one of the things I walk away with when it comes to AI is, oh my goodness, we have to be super aware of our surroundings more than ever of everything that's coming into us. Because even the Netflix movies that are recommended to you are all based on what you've been watching, right? So there might be a whole host of movies out there that you'd really enjoy, but because maybe we don't like you to go that way, we want you to move this direction. Amazon or Netflix has always recommended these movies now, right? So it's, yeah, scary world.
Yeah. And I think that's where people can kind of fall into the fear of things. And,
Yeah,
just like anything else that people are fearful, this is just another thing that they can be fearful of and create anxiety and all kinds of other things. And again, I think, like you said, we have to have discernment, especially as believers in Christ. We have to, be good stewards of what God's given us. He knew this was coming.
yeah,
He knew this was going to be part of our world exactly when it's happening. So it's no surprise to him. And I think, again, having the, just security in knowing that God is in control of all things. And that's never going to change, whether it's AI now or something 20 years from now that's even more intense. But I think also going back to some of the positives of it, using it for things that can be helpful, using it for things that can be
yeah,
efficient. Even simple things I heard a couple people talking about too, like on a financial end of things, like having it create a budget for you so that you can do better
yeah,
with your finances, having it
yeah,
help you with investment tools. So that you can do things that way a little bit better, and just understanding how to use it and not just being used by it. And that's the same with anything we have, any tool that we have. It's just this one seems intense because it's
it's big. Yeah, it's big. So I think that's great advice, Brian. I think, yeah, it's a tool and learn how to use it. Yeah, don't be afraid of it.
But like you said too, it was, we've had all these different aspects, right? We had the Industrial Revolution, which probably freaked out a lot of people. And look
Yeah,
where that
yeah,
took us, and all these other different
yeah,
things that happened over time. And each one of them, had its ups and downs, had its pros and cons. And I think this is another aspect of our technological world that's going to shape and change things.
yeah. And yeah, if we lean into the positives as a culture, it can be really good. And no matter how you do it, people are going to lean into the negatives.
Yeah.
That's our culture too, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that's just how it is. So what would you, I don't know, is there anything else big you want to share about AI stuff? I know you've done a lot of research, a lot of study on this stuff.
No, I mean, I think those are just some of the main things that I don't know a lot about it. I know what I've used it for, and I know what some of the capabilities are. I'm still enjoying learning more about it, from, like I said, the image creation and video creation. But I am really, really remedial on all of it at this point. But I'm curious and anxious to learn more about it, because I personally feel like I want to know more about it so I know how to manage it and what I can benefit from it. I mean, if it's going to be there and we can benefit from it, I'd rather get that aspect of it instead of getting scared and freaked out about it taking over the world.
Yeah.
And,
So,
again, having hope in Jesus, I don't really worry about that too much.
so if I could wrap up some of the things you've been hit on. So obviously it affects our jobs and it could either be positive or negative, depending on how we look at that. Honestly, if you're a hardworking person, you learn to adapt, you learn to use the tools. Some people are probably still using a screwdriver to put screws in. Most of us use drills. I mean, it's simple, it's easy. Um, it's stuff like that, right? You learn the tools. And yeah, it's going to change the job market. It's going to shift things, but hardworking people are always going to have jobs. I mean, that's the bottom
Yeah.
line. If you're looking to do lazy, then yeah, it's going to affect you. Obviously, it affects our relationships, affects mental health, spiritual health, and we can't look to substitutes. There's nothing can substitute face to face and
Yeah.
human contact. There's nothing going to take that place. Not your 3D glasses and all that kind of stuff and the virtual reality worlds. We need each other, right? We need each other to lean on each other. And then learning the distinction between truth and
Yeah.
fakes. And that's huge, scary. What we see anymore, what we hear anymore, it may or may not be real. We need to double check. One of the things, I'd heard somebody talk about AI recently, and the 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 younger generation is they're so, and again, this is a generalization, but they're craving relationships.
Mm.
They're craving reality. And when they look at some of the AI stuff, they're like, yeah, I'm not interested in it because they're seeing it as being fake. So it's an image that, oh, that's an AI image. I want to see somebody's original.
Yeah.
I don't want to see that AI stuff. So I think there's some real positive things coming back around to say, what, that's cool. I want to see a real artist with a paintbrush. I don't want to see an AI thing doing its own thing. And so I think that's pretty cool. The other thing is, and we didn't even hit on that, but there's some speculation now too. Are we going to hit the AI bubble like we hit other bubbles
Hmm.
before too? Because there's been a lot of promise. There's been a lot of investment into the AI world and the returns are just not there yet. And so what's going to happen that way too?
Well, I think, and from other people I've heard, like, this is just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, what we have right now in
Yeah.
chat and some of these other AI platforms, it is just scratching the surface as to what it's going to be able to do from even
Yeah.
5 years from now. Because
Yeah.
from 2020 to now, it's already like crazy different
I
than
know.
what it used to be.
Yeah.
So I think some of the
Yeah.
people are saying this is really, really just the very beginning of it. So, I
Yeah.
mean, in some ways that's exciting to see, and also, like you said, a little scary depending on where it's gonna take us.
Yeah. Go back to your original comment that TV show where, what was that one they called where they
Person
were,
of interest?
yeah, person of interest. So I was your article, that was a while back where, they were saying because of AI, like if I walked out my back door and go to say like my back shed, that satellite imagery using AI technology knows whether it's me or you going from the back door to my shed because of the gait in which you walk. And it knows when it feeds all the information that, oh, that's Brian. That's not Kenny. That's Brian. Isn't that
That is
wild? Like,
crazy, yeah.
that's really scary stuff. So hey, why don't we wrap up? What's a mulligan when you come to think of AI? Like, what would you call a
Well,
mulligan?
I think for me, now thinking about it, like, if I could have a do-over on this, it would be to have gone back and invested in some of these companies for first starting, like, like, I don't know, 2015 or something like that when people started talking about,
Yeah,
Chat GPT and nobody knew what it was. I would have loved to have invested in it at that point because I know it's some of those AI industries, like, if you're investing in them, are gonna skyrocket at some point. Some will tank, but I'm sure some are gonna skyrocket.
yeah.
How about you?
Guess good mulligan. I don't know. I guess I'm more fearful that we may not have a mulligan to use because if this really takes over the world, we all saw iRobot. If it takes over the world, we're in big trouble. But I'm with you. Our faith in Christ, we know what's coming, and we have victory in Him. I'm not really worried about this world too
Yeah.
much. We get through these things. They're challenges to face, but I think like anything else, there's positive and negatives. I think hopefully some people are saying, "No, I need to take a mulligan. I need to take a second look at this thing because
Yeah.
it's not as bad as I think it is." And I hope that's what people walk away with.
Yeah.
That this is not some evil monster. Let's take the benefits we can of it. So why don't we wrap up? Great to have you all out listening, and looking forward to our next conversation, Brian.
Sounds good. We know everyone can use a second chance or a do-over. So take a mulligan and try again. Thanks so much for joining with us today. Make sure you follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. Like, click, and subscribe.